This involves a Christian father uh, named Brad Briscoe. And here's how I came across this story. Earlier this month in November, early November, this guy named Brad, he steps in front of a Baptist church, Ballard Baptist Church in Kentucky, and he delivers. He's allowed to give a guest sermon for like 20 minutes. The pastor of the church says, our friend Brad here wants to talk to y'all for a little while, so I'm going to hand over the microphone to him. And Brad Briscoe proceeds to tell a 20-minute story where he's telling the congregation why they should be concerned about their local public school district. And I'm not going to play the video because it is very long and he's very boring. But I will tell you the highlights of his story. And I feel like I'm steel manning what he has said here. So this is the version of the story as he told it. He said, in September of last year, his 16-year-old daughter asked the family if her friend, a 17-year-old girl at the school, if she could stay with the family for a while because her family was going through some stuff. And the Briscoes basically said, yeah, sure, we want to help out your friend. They said it's not weird for their kids' friends to stay at their home, and he had no problem agreeing to it. So it's all good. The friend stays at their home. 6 months later, Brad Briscoe finds out that the two girls, his daughter and her friend, they had more than a friendship. He called it a romantic involvement. And their daughter denied it at first. She said, I'm not gay, but then she admitted they were in a relationship. And Briscoe could not handle that. They said same-sex relationships are not allowed in our house, not while you're living under our roof. And then they punished her for lying to them. They banned her from seeing her girlfriend. And you know that goes over well with kids. And what he said, though, this is where the story took a strange turn. He said that in February, like 6 months later, several months later, he found out that a counselor at their girls' high school knew absolutely everything about our situation. And that counselor had been in touch with their daughter because the daughter had told the counselor all of this, poured her heart out to the counselor. And apparently the counselor said, I can't believe your parents are punishing you for being gay. And the parents are like, we didn't punish her for being gay. We punished her for lying to us about being gay. Apparently, the counselors told the girl she might want to consider getting emancipated from her parents, which seems like an unusual thing for a counselor to say. But also, that's a lot of hoops you got to jump through. And I think the counselor and the girl realized, yeah, that's not a feasible option there. The counselor also suggested developing a false child protective service order. Like, let's call the authorities and say your parents are abusing you or something, and they'll take the parents away, which again seems like a very weird thing for the counselor to do. But okay, that's what Brad Briscoe said. And then the coup de grace here, Briscoe said the counselor wanted his wife to lose her teaching job because she worked in the district and have their daughter move into the counselor's basement. And that the counselor urged their daughter to like bait the parents into yelling at her and saying damning things so that the girl could record her parents and use it as evidence for like CPS to take her parents away. And the way the dad knew all this is because his daughter, after realizing, the daughter, he said, heard the counselor or saw the counselor talking about, we can get your mom fired over this. And then the daughter came to her senses. And she realized, apparently, in his telling, that the counselor is not looking after my best interests. She's just trying to promote her liberal agenda. And the daughter revealed that she had been communicating with the guidance counselor through text messages. And the family has like 200 texts between the counselor and the daughter. That's how we found out what they were talking about. He also said before this revelation from their daughter, her grades started dropping. She got moody. He didn't know why, which, by the way, I'm not the parent of a teenager, but I work with teenagers. Guess what? They get moody. It happens. Anyway, Briscoe said, guess what? A CPS agent, like a child welfare agent, did come to their house and said they were going to be charged with emotional abuse and other things. And that when the daughter realized, he said, that her parents might actually be in trouble for all this, that's when she came clean and told them she had been confessing all this stuff to the counselor. And then they had screenshots of all the text messages. The one I want to highlight, and I'm going to show it to you here. There's one screenshot that they took that is, I mean, admittedly weird. This is the screenshot. The blue is the daughter. The black is the guidance counselor. I don't know what the first part is about. She said that, like, she had spilled the beans. The parents might now knew the counselor was talking to her, and they might go after the counselor. The daughter wanted the counselor to know her parents were on to her. And the blue, the daughter says, just letting you know so you're not blindsided if anything comes of this. And the counselor responds, I'm not worried about this because even if they got rid of me or something, the other guidance counselors at the school are basically on my side here. So here's what the counselor says. I know it's hard to read, but I'm not worried at all. I mean, they can take their pick from me, who is the cheerleader of the gays, Ashley, who's the trashy lesbian, or Melissa, who is the assistant superintendent's wife who will make her lose her job, talking about the girl's mother. Basically, the counselor is saying, look, everyone I work with supports LGBTQ rights, and they're not going to allow your parents to get away with any of this stuff. Now, let me just say right off the bat, there is a line that a professional, a teacher, a counselor should not cross. I don't think it's professional for a counselor to talk that way to any kid, to use that language with any kid, to text that way with a current student. That seems unprofessional. I don't know what the school's policy is with social media and stuff. I don't know if that deserves a reprimand or that deserves something worse. But I will freely admit, I am not here advocating that the counselor did everything right here, because that seems just totally unprofessional and inappropriate. And this is all assuming Brad Briscoe's narrative is accurate here. We'll get to that. But the other thing I would say is, let's suppose this daughter comes to the counselor and says, I'm worried because my parents are punishing me because I am gay, because I'm in a relationship with this other girl. There is a professional thing like a counselor. What do you do at that point? You're not going to call the parents and say, hey, by the way, your daughter came to me today and told me she's gay. I just wanted you to know. You don't want to reveal that. You don't know if the parents are abusive. You don't know what they're going to do with that information. That's why there's so much controversy right now about similar policies that require counselors to out students who are trans or who want teachers to use their pronouns. Like, that's a horrible idea. Counselors should not be obligated to tell parents what their kid is doing when it comes to pronouns or their gender identity, because if your kid is not telling the parents, if a kid is not telling their parents they are out or gay or trans, maybe there's a reason for that. So, like, I don't think the counselor was under any obligation to tell the parents about whatever the daughter was telling her. I think that's fine. That's a policy. That's a way to keep the kids safe, especially if the daughter feels like her parents are abusive, physically, emotionally, what have you. So I don't know that the counselor should have said anything to the parents. Again, where I got weirded out in this story is the text messages. I don't know why they were texting, unless maybe the counselor thought this child is in trouble. She needs an adult who's her advocate. So maybe I'll communicate with her. But again, then you got to keep it professional. And usually most public school districts have a way for adults to communicate with students that can be transparent. And like, if any administrator wanted to peek in on what they were saying, they would be allowed to do that. Most public school districts have a system like that. So I don't love the text messages here. Anyway, so this is the story Brad Briscoe said. He also said that he told the superintendent about all this and they had a meeting. And the superintendent said, I'm going to investigate this. But after the investigation, the superintendent told them, quote, everything the counselor did was in good faith. And so the investigation didn't say the counselor did anything inappropriate. His conclusion that Brad Briscoe told the church is that you better not be a Christian in Anderson County, which is weird because that place is like more than 50% Christian. It's Kentucky. Come on, give me a break. You're fine if you're a Christian in Kentucky. But after that monologue at his church, conservative Christians in the community began spreading it. The family got a lawyer. They got a law firm to send a letter to the school board detailing everything I just told you, with screenshots in the mix. And their argument is that the counselor violated her professional code of ethics and deserves to be punished. They also say the superintendent didn't do her job when she was investigating the matter. So it's not a lawsuit, but they're saying the school board needs to take action. They need to punish some people. And they say the counselor was trying to thwart the Briscoes' parental decisions in order to facilitate the daughter and her girl, like the classmates' romantic relationship. This counselor was trying to override the parents' wishes. And the counselor wanted their daughter to go to a therapist. And apparently the counselor told the daughter that if you go see a Christian counselor, they'll probably subject you to conversion therapy, which the Briscoes said, you're assaulting our faith. The counselor said you should go see a more affirming therapist. And the lawyers for the family said the family opted for a more objective option. I don't know what that means, because like if you're not seeing an affirming therapist, what's objective? Someone who says being gay is wrong? Like, I don't know what that means. But anyway, the reason part of this is a problem also. I also want to point this out. So the superintendent heard that this video was starting to go viral, and the superintendent issued one statement on the matter, and it was posted on the district's website. Statement from Sheila Mitchell, superintendent of the schools. I'll blow this up a little bit so you can see it. I have become aware of a video posted on Ballard Baptist Church's Facebook page alleging many accusations. I have been asked to provide a statement regarding this video and the content of it. FERPA rights of students and privacy rights of staff do not allow me as superintendent to discuss preliminary details, confirm or deny publicly made accusations, consent, or the outcome of the investigation unless the parents of the students sign a release for me to discuss this matter publicly. And I'll stop there. Basically, what you're saying is, I would love to tell you my side of the story. I would love to tell you the counselor's side of the story. We are legally not allowed to do that unless the parents give us permission to. Look at the last line in this statement. If the parents sign a release for me to respond publicly, I will provide an updated release with additional information. Interesting. That was over a week ago. So earlier this week, there was a school board meeting in the district. And guess what? Conservative Christians overtook the entire space because they all know this story by now. They're furious at the school board for not holding the superintendent and the counselor accountable. And I'm not going to show you the entire meeting. It's like an hour and a half long. But it opens up with the school board representative saying, listen, you are all here. We will have time for public comments. We will get to you. But we want you to know we legally cannot just fire people on a whim. Don't ask us to do that. What the superintendent said about like their side of the story, we can't tell it to you. That's also true. You can't ask us to do things that are not in our power. So by all means, if you have concerns, let us hear about them, but don't be mad because we can't make any decisions. And the whole meeting was just angry Christian after angry Christian talking about how angry they were with this whole situation. The Briscoes, by the way, also spoke there. One speaker brought up that the counselor's actions may have been millstone offenses. And if you are Christian, you might be familiar that that's a reference to a Bible verse that says if someone causes another to sin, it'd be better if the person were murdered. So that to me is a death threat. That's messed up. Others treated this whole school board meeting as a religious revival. They're spewing Bible verses left and right as if anyone should care about those. But that's where we are right now. By the way, the school board superintendent said this week also, this is in an email. Where did it go? Oh no, I lost it. Let me bring that back up here. I just had it. The school board, the superintendent, there we go. Let me share this with you here. There we go. On Tuesday, Mitchell, the superintendent, told the Herald Leader in an email, because of the students' privacy rights, I am not able to comment on anything stated by the parents in recent days, including at our school board meeting. I'm unable to provide further detail or comment without a release signed by the parents. It's the same thing she wrote in the statement, which means the Briscoes have not given her permission to talk about and share her side of the story. Why is that? We don't know the answer. I'm very curious to hear what the counselor says about all this. Very curious what the investigation said by the superintendent. I don't know why the family has basically gagged this superintendent for the past several months. So that's interesting. And now we have to wait and see. Will the district release the superintendent's findings so the public can hear the other side of the story? Will they cave to the Christian mob that is out for blood and wants his counselor and superintendent fired? What mistakes would district officials say were made? And I think one other question I would like to know is, how would these conservative Christians who were part of this mob at the school board meeting, what do they think would have been the proper way for the school district to handle a girl coming to her counselor saying, I am gay, I'm in a relationship, my parents are punishing me because of all this? What do they think the counselor should have done? Because I promise you that whatever answers they give are not going to be good ones. And it's worth noting that I'm sure you all know LGBTQ students who are not affirmed face an increased risk of self harm or worse. Like, we should want counselors looking out for those kids' best interests. These parents, the Briscoes, they don't want that, but the counselor does. And so, even if I think some of that stuff she did was inappropriate or crossed a line, I don't think the intention was wrong. I mean, I don't want the school district to appease the mob. Like, I want the board to assess if the superintendent's report was fair. And if it was, they should say that. And if this, I want to know I want to know from the superintendent, do you think the counselor did anything that crossed a line? And if so, what was it? And what punishment should be doled out for that? Because these other zealots, they've already made up their mind based on one side of the story. We have not heard both sides. And I don't think there's any reason for the board, certainly, to cave into their demands without first taking an honest look at what the other side is saying. One coda to this story is that the counselor in question here, she was in another newspaper article a year ago when this district passed a policy saying teachers should use a kid's pronouns, even if they're trans. She supported that move. And in the story, she pointed out she's a born-again Christian. So the counselor in this story is a born-again Christian. And I find that interesting as well.